when you take a bad dog, right, and put them in a great environment, they're great dogs. It's not the dog. So we see that so much with salespeople. Just because they're unskilled, right, or maybe they never got taught something, or their DNA level is low, or whatever you call it, it's not because they're bad salespeople. They've gotten no love, support, guidance, training, coaching, all of that. And we've seen so many people have amazing increases, right, in their performance, but it just took that one situation, right, to help them.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to the CA Power Players podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins. I'm sitting here live today with my good buddy, Steve Heroux from Sales Collective, hanging out with us. He was at our 1% Mastermind in Scottsdale, Arizona. I got a chance to see this dude do a breakout session. I'm here to tell you, when you talk about the psychology of sales and sales training, understanding DNA of salespeople, this dude is as good as I've ever seen. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. It was a blast, and it's so cool to have met so many new people and coming from the insurance world and just knowing how many ways you can help other folks. I mean, that's what drives me every day. So can't wait to be at 8%.
Yeah, man. Excited for that too. For those that are jumping in, if at any point you want to hear like, dude, I want to learn more about Steve and his company and what they do, we'll have a link in the description below that you can click on and check that out. For Steve, that before we get into your story, there's one thing that's got my attention. You talk about this sales DNA, understanding the DNA of who you are as a salesperson, and actually put them through a DNA test. Explain what that is and the importance of it for just an individual sales rep or an agency owner.
Sure. Yeah, the Cliff's Notes version, quick background so it'll make sense. But my first sales job I was 18 years old selling Cutco knives. And we told this story in the breakout, which is kind of cool. I had never sold anything to anybody, deathly afraid of people. Came time to give book reports, I'd throw up in the bathroom. And so I was fearful, even just making a presentation to my aunt. But I ended up doing well because I really believed in it. And I learned the power of referrals. That's how I ended up getting to number one in the country with Cutco by my senior year in college. So fast forward from Cutco knives, I went into our industry, the insurance world, to the company with a duck. And of course, you all know Aflac. Spent 13 years with Aflac. Somehow made it to number one with Aflac. 60,000 agents. I was the top guy.
Wow.
But what was interesting, yeah, it's no big deal. Just 1 year.
But I mean, you say it's not, but like number one out of 60,000 agents at Aflac.
Yeah.
That's freaking nuts, man.
Yeah. And I didn't know what I was doing, man. That's the greatest part about DNA. So when I had left Aflac 13 years later, I wanted to build my own consultancy. So the course I created was specifically designed to help Aflac agents do what I did. And so I had moved down to Costa Rica at the time. I was doing everything from the jungle right down there.
Let's go. I didn't know that either, man. I love this.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I would travel back and forth to the States and train all these Aflac folks. And so I ended up doing a keynote for the head of Aflac in New England. And his name is Mike Chili. And he's like, Steve, man, your content is unique. I've not really seen this before. He goes, but you got to take this test my buddy's been using for the last 25 years. And I'm like, Mike, okay, no offense, but I don't believe in these disc profiles and personalities. It doesn't matter. He goes, it's not disc. I'm like, well, what is it? He goes, well, it's sales DNA. And I'm like, oh, what's that? And he goes, well, we measure things that nobody's ever thought about or been taught in selling. And I go, all right, fine, send it to me. So I took it, did not do well. And I was like, man, you really suck at sales. How'd you do so well in Cutco and Aflac? But what was interesting is it taught me things I had no concept were affecting my ability to sell. And not that we have all day to go into it, but we measure things like the need to be liked. About 8 out of 9 people need to be liked. And if you need to be liked in sales, you're dead. But that's not what we've been taught, right? We've been taught that people buy from people they like. That's not true. People buy when there's value present. But what the top 10% of women and men in sales know is that they would rather be respected than liked. Now, they're still likable, but they don't need you to like them. Big distinction. And I
Mm.
wish somebody had taught me this 20 years earlier. There are things like being comfortable discussing money, and you would be shocked because we have clients in our industry that, sell money related things. And 6 out of 10 salespeople are uncomfortable discussing money.
Crazy.
Discussing other people's money, right? Having conversations about what happens if you don't, right? All these functions that live in our heads. And the best analogy I can give you is, let's say you're a golfer. We have a lot of golfers on here.
Mm-hmm.
I teach you how to swing. I get you the right shaft. We have 9.5-degree loft, right? It's the perfect club. But if you think it's going in the water, where's it going?
Water.
And that's the issue with real understanding of sales psychology. It's not what you say or what's in the script or any of that stuff. If you think it, you're already dead. You get in the batter's box in baseball. If you're afraid of the ball, clearly you can't execute. Even though you're big and strong and have quick bat speed, it's the same in sales. But if you don't recognize those are in there, how would you ever fix them? So that's the gist of Sales DNA. 45 minutes, and it'll tell you 180 things of why you may not be reaching your full potential, or maybe why you're really good, but you haven't gotten to great yet. So that's the tool.
Wow. Yeah. And anybody can take the test?
Yeah, anybody can take it. There's interesting part of DNA is there are levels. In other words, sales is 1, sales manager is 2, sales leader is 3. So 3 completely different versions of DNA because they're completely different skill levels, competency levels. We didn't touch on this after my talk, but somebody came up to me and was like, well, do great salespeople make great sales managers? I'm like, do flight attendants make great pilots? So you got it. It's not easy. I struggled a lot because when I was leading sales teams, I thought everybody could do what I did.
Yep.
And they can't. And I didn't know how to teach and coach. And so it's great to be able to measure both, right? If that's in an organization or you want to become a leader, you're going to know if you have sales manager, sales leadership DNA as well.
Yeah, that's good. And man, I'm going back to the 6 out of 10 agents are uncomfortable talking about money.
Yeah.
How do you help with that piece of it?
So one little caveat to that for those of you listening, this test, which is a test conducted by another company we use called Objective Management Group, we're their number 1 partner, but they developed this test 33 years ago. So before many of you watching were born, we've been testing salespeople. We're now at 2.25 million salespeople tested. And this tool is not only used in evaluating us currently, but evaluating people that you might want to grow your agency with. And so when it's used in hiring, it's 92% predictive. So we know if somebody's going to be good or bad or indifferent or great or amazing, and you haven't even met them yet. So identify traits. It can help you a lot.
Yeah. So you're 92% sure if they're going to be in the 8% or not,
Pretty much. Technically, the real math, Cody, is 92% of the time, if we recommend someone, they will be in the top half of their sales team within a year, right? Which there's not a tool on earth that's above 50%. So we know they're going to be good. Getting an 8%er, finding a Cody, right? You just get lucky. Finding Tom Brady in the 6th round. Okay, we can't predict that. But when you have the tools in place like this as a blueprint to train, teach, and coach, it makes it much easier for people to ascend to that level. But to get back to your question about the money thing, it's not just having conversations around money and asking dumb questions like, what's your budget? You can't do that stuff. But it has to do with being comfortable discussing other people's money. Because we were not, I don't know what you were taught about money, but I was not taught anything about money, right? Money grows on trees, it doesn't grow on trees, right? It's taboo. You can't talk to your parents about money. When I sold insurance right after Aflac, I was doing discovery, asking for life insurance, right? And I'd ask my mom questions, what's your I knew her birthday, but what's your income, whatever. When I asked my mom how much money she made, she gave me a 2-word answer. And the second word was you. So we don't get a lot of coaching and training around money. So it's stuck in our heads. It doesn't just fall out when we go into sales. And so another part I learned from Brian Tracy, you will only ever earn within 10%, plus or minus, of what you believe you are worth. And many successful business women and men will share their story with you, and they'll all tell you the same thing. The first blank dollars were the hardest to earn. They'll all tell you the first $1 million. The second million is easy. The first $1 million is almost impossible because we don't believe we're worth $1 million. But the second you are, that's when you explode. And that's where the whole starving artist moniker comes from. It's not because people's art is screwed up. It's because their mindset is screwed up. And I remember giving a talk, or did an article for Professional Photographers Association. I met 2 wedding photographers. One gal charged $5,000 for a wedding. One charged $12,000. Same equipment, same camera, same software, same everything. Which one was busier?
You would assume the 5.
$12,000. Which one had a waiting list? Which one had referral? Like, it's abundance mindset, not scarcity. So that's the stuff we talk about when we teach and train around being comfortable with money. It's not asking closing questions or dumb stuff like that. It's how we think about what we say. It's not what we say. But what's interesting, we used to do this, they called it a blueprint for success, and some people that might have worked at Aflac before. So we would have to write down our goals and stuff like that in training. My mom found it in the attic like 15 years later. And I'd written down, like, my first day of training, I want to be a top 10, Aflac agent, whatever, by my 10th year or something like that. And so it's funny, I didn't ever think I would get there. But I just worked hard every single day. I'm not a goal person per se. And here's why. Because you can't control outcomes. All I can control is what I do today. That's it. So I know, like, when I was in Aflac, I made 125 dials every day for 2 years. Every day. Because I didn't have a book. I didn't have client base. So I had to build it. But I realized that, that was sadomasochistic, and that's who wants to make cold calls every day. You got to be an insane person. So I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So that's when I started, again, going back to what built up all my Cutco stuff, was generating referrals. I had hundreds of referrals I couldn't even get to. And then I partnered with brokers. So I would be in the house, right, at an insurance agency. And they gave me a desk, right, to work in their office. And their producers are like, do you work here? Or I'm like, no, just the Aflac guy. And they would walk me into accounts, right? I'd split my commission with them. And there were still people in Aflac that didn't follow what I did. And they go, oh, you're going to give up all your commission? I'm like, you're making 100% of nothing. I make 50% of a lot. So that's how I got there. And I just wish I would have had DNA back then. I was just on what and vinegar and just busting my butt. And, I don't believe I'm particularly talented at anything. I just fought hard for my policyholders. And I knew that if they got hurt or sick or cancer or had a preemie or whatever, I knew they'd be in trouble because I knew insurance didn't cover everything. And that's why I would fight with these business owners to let me come and share Aflac with them, because it wasn't their money. They didn't pay anything. But I knew that if they got hurt or sick, they'd be in big trouble. And that's what got me making all those calls every day.
So DNA wise, is there like a, results where it's like, hey, you should leave the industry immediately? You're no longer allowed to be in as a sales rep.
We don't necessarily do the Warren Buffett thing, right? Just come in and clean house, right? But I look at salespeople like rescue dogs. I don't know if
Mhm.
you have dogs or but
Yeah, two
so
too many, at least one too many, but yeah.
when you go in, right, and you look at them, I remember getting our first dog and they had A's, B's, and C's on their crates. Right? I'm like, what are these letters? And the guy's like, well, these are their personalities, right? I'm like, so what's a C? And like, stay away from the C's.
It
I'm
just
like,
doesn't have a good personality or it's gonna rip your head off or
right,
what?
yeah, they're bad dogs, right? So I go,
Okay.
take me to the C's. So I go, the last crate in the bottom left is a C. It's a little like a min pin dachshund mix. I go, let me see that one. So they open the crate up and he jumps on my lap. And the guy at the pound was like, what? I go, what? They go, he doesn't like men. He's been beaten, right, by males his whole life. He won't go near anyone. I'm like,
Mm.
well, I don't know if that's good or bad for me, but I'll take it. So we took him home. Rocky was named, and
Oh, I
it's
love that.
interesting because when you take a bad dog, right, and put them in a great environment, they're great dogs. It's not the dog. So we see that so much with salespeople, just because they're unskilled, right? Or maybe they never got taught something, or their DNA level is low, or whatever you call it. It's not because they're bad salespeople. They've got no love, support, guidance, training, coaching, all of that. And
Mm.
we've seen so many people have amazing increases, right, in their performance, but it just took that one situation, right, to help them.
Yes.
So yeah, I think
I
we
love
can
that.
help a lot of people.
It's a good answer, man. Like, hey, you know what? We're not gonna just give you the boot, man. We're gonna help you, you know?
Yeah.
What do you notice are some of the top things that salespeople need help with?
Number one, geez, there's probably 67 Achilles heels we all have.
Yeah.
Time ownership's probably number one. It's not time management, right? Time management's fake. Time
Time
ownership.
ownership.
If you counted your minutes like you do your dollars, you wouldn't piss them away. But people do, right? And they don't realize like you can't get that back. Like we can all make more money. We cannot make more time. And so I think salespeople are very inefficient with what they do on a daily basis. The second thing is investing that time to get better, which is why I love what you do. And I love like Alex Hermosi. Guys like Alex, right, are so incredible with their time because they don't waste it on dumb stuff. And
Yeah.
so many people will buy, and I was there buying cars and watches, this kind of stuff. Invest in you, right? It's the best thing you
Mhm.
could ever do. And it's 1/100th of what we waste on those things. And so I think that if salespeople looked at their craft like a true craft, and a lot of us do, but you know how we're viewed, right, in the world,
Yep.
the perception. But if we
Yep.
looked at ourselves like a lawyer, a doctor, right, an accountant, that you've got to put in time, effort, 200 grand, 7 years testing. Oh, you got to pass the bar too, right? The barrier to entry of a salesperson is like, hey, are you breathing? Uh, and even if you're not, some people recruit dead bodies, right?
Yeah.
So, if you invest more time into you and your craft, we teach 15 minutes a day, which is about 3% of an average working person's day. If you can't find 3% of what you're doing daily, something's off. And we've got to look at how much time are you on TikTok, right? What are you doing legitimate social media versus, watching
Yes.
people dance or raccoon with bubbles or whatever. So I think those are big. And the last is probably follow up. An alarming stat, which I still is burned in my memory: 48% of salespeople never follow up a second time.
Yeah.
That's insane, right? So even if they do follow up, it's not taught properly. And so a salesperson's follow up, even if they do follow up, is, hey, Cody, you ready to buy? Did you get the docs? Are you going to sign? That's not
Just
follow up.
following up.
Yeah. Oh my God. Somebody sent that to me today. I'm like, please eliminate this. Whoever's teaching you this, fire them.
I love that.
So there's a tip for y'all. Don't ever say following up. Don't say just checking in, right? None of that stuff.
It's ridiculous.
It's
terrible.
Those are
Well, dude, this has been fun, man. If they want to learn more, the link is below. Obviously, you guys help with sales training. You have the DNA test, full company, the Sales Collective. Steve, appreciate you being a part of 1%. We'll see you at 8%. And thank you for being on the podcast. And
sure. Thanks, man. Appreciate you and everything your team does. You're great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Steve Heroux. Thanks for being on today. Thank you guys for listening to Power Player Podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Adios. Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're going to love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there.
Yeah, if you take 25 leads, make 20 contacts per week, whether they say no or yes, then several agents writing over $200,000 of annual premium, netting over $100,000 a year.
Which is amazing. And you